I absolutely love Left 4 Dead. Now, that's not the craziest thing to say. Everyone loves this game except for a few bad apples that somehow think Back 4 Blood is better. But something that's kind of surprised me and probably a few others is the fact that I haven't made a video about Left 4 Dead just yet. I've been using this game as background footage for pretty much my first few videos, but we're not here for that. You read the title, you voted for the mystery video in last week's video vote probably, and you saw the eye-catching thumbnail. Today I'll be talking about the cut content of Left 4 Dead. This will be from stuff as little as an item all the way to a full-on cut campaign. I'll break this video into chapters, so first I'll discuss the smaller stuff, then eventually leading up into the bigger and better things. Now before we dive right into the cut content of Left 4 Dead, may I ask you comment your favorite piece of cut content from this game, and subscribe to keep me in the algorithm. Also, join my Discord server to get early insight into videos and interact with me and other like-minded people. Alright, with the ad out of the way, let's grab our favorite gun, pop a medkit, and open up the safe room door and head straight first into the cut content of Left 4 Dead. So starting out with some cut items and weapons, originally the medkit was supposed to have more of a box-shaped design and it would also come with some pills. I think it's also safe to say now that I'm taking most of this information from the Left 4 Dead wiki and other YouTube videos that I've seen, which I'll be putting all that stuff down in the description if you want to check those out. But I am also going to be putting my own thoughts and interpretations for these pieces of cut content to keep it original. The next cut, or well, changed item was the adrenaline shot. Now, the adrenaline we have now looks like a syringe and you stick it in you for a speed boost. But originally, the adrenaline was just a yellow reskin of the pain pills. I'm honestly glad that the adrenaline came out the way it did because it's much more discernible than the pain pills. And had they stuck with that design, it would have caused a lot of confusion and probably some people getting pissed off. Now, stepping away from the healing items and onto the throwables. Originally, the pipe bomb was going to be just a regular grenade. It was also the same grenade used in Counter-Strike, which Left 4 Dead was built off of. After the change though, the early mechanics of the pipe bomb didn't include the beeping sounds, as well as blowing up after 2 seconds and even blowing up on impact. I feel like making it a regular grenade would have made it feel a lot more generic and also wouldn't have been as effective as using the final game's version of the pipe bomb. Though I am curious what a final separate version of the grenade would look like right next to the pipe bomb, Molotovs, and other throwables. From what I know, the Molotov and Boomer Bile wasn't really changed too much. Well, the Boomer Bile was originally red alongside the puke from the Boomer until it was ultimately changed to being the lime green we all know and love today. Now, as for cut weapons, the M249 light machine gun was originally in the game, but I believe it was traded out for either the M60 or M16 assault rifle, which is arguably much better weaponry. The M249 can also be seen in early concept art of the survivors. Here they are. Other weapons that were cut were the infamous didgeridoo. I have no idea how to pronounce that. And in my opinion, it just feels really out of place compared to the other melee weapons in Left 4 Dead. It just feels off. Originally, the laser sights were supposed to appear in the first Left 4 Dead as an upgrade alongside others, but that was scrapped and moved to the second game. In the early designs as well, the guns did not have flashlights on them. I think they would have been attached to the character body or would have been found as an upgrade. Maybe Valve had a potential battery mechanic in mind for the flashlight and you either had to find new batteries or a whole new flashlight. But that's just my interpretation on the idea. There's no evidence that backs up that theory. But if that were the case where you had to find the batteries or a new flashlight, it would have been really annoying. That's about all I could find for the cut weapons. Other than that, most if not all of the weapon sounds were changed during development. For Left 4 Dead 1, it seems that the cast was decided upon pretty early on, which these early designs were made to look more gritty and survivalist, but then Valve decided to change the designs to look more generalized, and in my opinion are a lot better than the more tactical feel of their original designs. I'll also throw in Zoe's original voice. In the final game, she's voiced by Jen Taylor, but in the earlier versions, it was Alicia Glidewell, who did Zoe's original voice. Here, take a listen.
Dude, I'm half your size, come on, get up! Guys, big, badass, nasty weapons over here!
Help's coming, guys. We just need to last a little longer. Okay, there's a plane on the way!
Fun fact, Alicia Glidewell was also the face and body base for Shell in Portal, another one of Valve's game titles. Though correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that Alicia's hurt sounds were left in for Zoe, as they sound very different compared to Jen Taylor's. Now for Lewis, my favorite Left 4 Dead 1 survivor, seems to have been changed the most during development, going from some dude who looks like he'd kick your ass for telling him to bug off to a guy who looks like he'll tell you that wasn't nice. Also, I do think that somewhere I heard or read that Lewis had an even earlier design, but it has never seen the light of day. Well, not yet at least. Last thing for the Left 4 Dead 1 survivors is that Zoe and Francis were supposed to be in a romantic relationship until Valve ultimately decided that it was too distracting for the players. Which, honestly, I definitely much prefer Francis and Rochelle and Zoe and Ellis. I feel like they just fit with each other a lot better, and seeing Zoe and Francis together just feels really off for me. Wow, the lonely guy in me is really coming out with that one. Now, as for the cast of the second game, there was a ton of concepts for different survivors, such as this colorful cast of characters which seemingly had an early version of Rochelle, but with a bit of weight added on. Yeah, Pyrocynical would love this design. One of my personal favorite early concept survivors is this survivor who seemingly is a nurse or maybe even a CETA worker, and she reminds me of one of my favorite game characters, Xian Mei from Dead Island series. It's a shame that most of these were cut, as a bunch of them I actually find really cool, but I'm pretty sure a few people have made mods that bring these concepts to life. After Valve eventually decided on who they want their cast to be made of, they went through a couple different designs, such as Ella starting out with a different colored hat and shirt. Coach's original design had him wearing a football gear and giving him a bow. Then that eventually evolved into his iconic outfit, but with a few different colors. Nick stayed generally the same, it was just his suit that got baggier, dirtier, and a little wrinkled. Then we have Rochelle, who had some vast changes, starting out with designs of her having more hair and, like I said earlier, one where she has a bit more weight on her. Maybe she ate one too many barbecue bacon burgers. Then when her design was finalized, her shirt was orange instead, and she had a much better haircut in my opinion. This one probably hurts me the most, as I really like her hair physics with this design. Alright, now that's about all I could find for the survivors, so let's move on. So there isn't much, if not anything interesting for the common and uncommon infected, so let's go straight into the cut special infected. The most popular cut special infected, which actually has a few mods for it on the Steam Workshop, is the Screamer. The main mechanic of the Screamer was that when he would spot a survivor, he would run away to somewhere safe and let out a scream which attracted the horde. I think the concept of it is cool, and the design is really interesting, but it would have been a pain in the ass trying to deal with these infected because of the fact that it runs away from you. The Screamer's mechanic of spawning a horde did end up turning into the Boomer's ability to spawn a horde, but with his vomit. The next few special infected don't have much information on them, but we can get rough ideas of how they might have worked. First, I want to talk about the zombie animals. In the files of Left 4 Dead, there's some audio files that are named Zombie Dog, and have both hurt and attack sounds with it. Though if we take a listen, it sounds like more of a pitched down hunter. Here, let me play some hunter sounds, then I'll play the zombie dog sounds, and I'll let you decide. Next zombie animal actually has some concept art for it. This is the Hell Hog. It seems Valve really wanted to go with some zombie animals in the second game, but they had scratched this idea because they probably wanted it to keep the infected to just humans. Now for my favorite cut special infected, the Claw. I mean, just look at him. He looks so happy. Well, happy to rip you to shreds, that is. For some reason, I really like his weirdly shaped head in his build. I would have loved to see a final version of the special infected, but I think because of how out of place it feels, I could see why it was cut. The Claw wasn't the only infected of the style though. There are these two, the Meat Wall and an early version of the Charger, both share this sort of special infected style. I believe the Meat Wall was supposed to be either an early version of the tank or a replacement for the tank. And you still can find some add-ons that do add the Meat Wall to the game, which, dude, I saw a video of it, it was terrifying. The next cut special infected is the Rat Man, which in this concept art has a bunch of rats coming from his stomach and mouth. Now look, I've got a fear of a bunch of small things scurrying at me, and holy this would have made me not want to play the game. I think the Rat Man would have been a really cool idea for a special infected, but compared to the others, it would be really hard to figure out a reasonable explanation as to why a bunch of rats were taking refuge in a zombie's stomach. That's about all I could find for the infected. So now let's move on to the final topic I have for this video. Now, obviously, the mainline campaigns are going to be changed up during development, whether that be the names, settings, and even stories of the campaigns. Now, the most notable cut Left 4 Dead campaign is Damn It, which was definitely cut early on based on the poster of it having even earlier designs of the Left 4 Dead 1 cast. What you're seeing in the background currently is a fan-made remake of this campaign, and if you want to use the mod pack I'm using in the video, I have it all linked down below alongside the link to my Discord server, which you should definitely go join, by the way. Damn It was supposed to take place in between Dead Air and Blood Harvest, basically bridging the foggy canon between the two. The campaign has you go through an airfield, orchid, rivers, construction yards, and then eventually the dam itself. When I played the fan-made version, I played it on normal difficulty, and even then the campaign was still difficult as hell. That or I'm just really bad at this game. Trying to find things to say about this map without repeating what a bunch of others have before me is pretty hard, as everything that could be talked about has already been talked about. Though campaigns weren't the only thing cut. There's two survival maps known as High Rise and the Docks. High Rise takes place in the modern tower that actually looks really cool and is definitely one of my favorite pieces of cut content. I don't really play survival, but this map is full of eye candy, so I can definitely see myself playing this one. Now for the docks, I couldn't find any footage or maps of this map, so we just gotta go off of what I heard. The docks was, well, a ship dock. This map was also seemingly a cut piece from the Damn It campaign and was also probably reused for parts of the Sacrifice campaign. Now, that's about everything I could find for cut content in Left 4 Dead and Left 4 Dead 2. Though, if you think I've missed anything or didn't cover something enough, feel free to drop it down in the comments, and I may or may not make a second video about the cut content of this game. I really do love covering cut content in video games, and I would love to make a series about this. If you guys do want to see that though, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to keep me in the algorithm and join my Discord server link down below. And finally, I hope you have a great day or night wherever you are. Bye!